Michael Ade Ojo grew up in the rural village of Ilaramokan, facing constant, gnawing hunger. To survive, he hawked cornmeal and firewood through freezing morning winds and intense afternoon heat. Long before he touched a corporate ledger, he learned how to endure physical discomfort to close a minor sale. Years later, working for a major distributor, Ade Ojo single-handedly closed a deal to supply 20 trucks to the National Electricity Corporation. Instead of rewarding him, his manager struck his name from the paperwork and stole the credit. That specific injustice pushed him into a near fisticuff and cost him his job. He used that rejection to strike out entirely on commission. Cosmas Modica faced a steep climb following the devastation of the Nigerian Civil War. With his formal schooling cut severely short and his regional economy reduced to rubble, he had to figure out how to trade with exactly zero starting capital. The solution was the IGBA apprenticeship system, or IGBA Boy. This is a strict 3-stage pipeline where an established business owner identifies young talent. The apprentice then lives with the master, running errands and absorbing practical market knowledge for years without a salary. In exchange for total loyalty, the master eventually settles the apprentice with the goods and capital needed to launch an independent venture. Surviving a war zone, hawking firewood in the cold, and working for years without pay builds a specific type of discipline. The foundation of these enterprises is the acquisition of a hardened trade skill and the grit required to outlast absolute scarcity. Dele Fajimiro-kun started from a different position. He took over his late father's sprawling business empire. But an inherited empire brings its own threats. Fajimiro-kun found himself trapped inside a tangled web of subsidiaries, weighed down by hidden debt exposure, surrounded by corporate predators eager to carve up the remaining assets. He used the formal financial literacy he gained from his business economics degree to stop the bleeding. He aggressively pruned the weak units, paid down the liabilities, and restructured the surviving holdings into a disciplined venture capital operation. Whether starting with empty pockets on a rural farm or stepping into a boardroom drowning in corporate debt, the required action remains consistent. The operator must identify the friction points and impose order on the chaos. In the early 1980s, a global oil crash and restrictive import licensing policies squeezed the Nigerian trading environment. While others panicked over restricted access to foreign parts, Cletus Ebeto saw a gap in domestic production. He stopped relying on direct importation. Using the capital and market knowledge he gained as a trader, he built his own controlled assembly lines in Nui, manufacturing lead-acid automotive batteries and plastic accessories domestically. Jeff Bezos applies this same need for strict operational control in the digital space. In his 1997 shareholder letter, he introduced his Day One operating philosophy, a model designed to maintain constant, nimble iteration. The core mechanic of Day One relies on working strictly backwards. Instead of engineers inventing products in a vacuum and hoping a market exists, the enterprise studies specific customer pain points and builds the exact infrastructure needed to solve them. To prevent the enterprise from stalling under its own weight, Bezos instituted 2 pizza teams. If a team cannot be fed by 2 pizzas, it is too large, too bureaucratic, and too slow to execute. Building a dominant market position depends on making an explicit, practical promise to the customer, then backing it with a tightly controlled, highly responsive internal process. In emerging markets, entrepreneurs often compete by manufacturing institutional trust itself, treating credibility as the primary product, rather than physical goods or digital platforms. When Nigeria deregulated its banking sector, the financial landscape suffered a massive credibility deficit. Customers lacked confidence in where their money was held. Fola Adiola recognized this void and designed a new financial institution built on transparency and ethical compliance to capture the market's confidence. Hakeem Bello Asagi executed a similar strategy in the telecommunications and finance sectors. He utilized deep regulatory awareness and meticulous corporate structuring to navigate complex, elite markets, where investor confidence dictates access to capital. In high-stakes environments where regulations shift and enforcement is weak, corporate governance is the ultimate form of enterprise promotion. Capital flows to systems that can prove they are stable. Building infrastructure often means directly confronting the state. When Strive Masiyiwa attempted to lay down bull networks, he faced resistance from entrenched state-backed telecom monopolies. Officials demanded bribes to clear the regulatory path. Masiyiwa strictly refused, treating ethical compliance as a strategic psychological play. By enduring years of legal battles without paying a single bribe, he built an unshakable wall of international legal credibility. Mo Ibrahim applied a similarly massive vision. He looked at a continent lacking basic connectivity and deployed a strategy to build a borderless telecom infrastructure, linking isolated economies straight into the global grid. Elon Musk operates with this same grid-building mindset. He isolates structural deficits in global transport and space exploration, applying a tolerance for risk to engineer completely new technological foundations. Small operators look for existing markets. Systemic builders possess the vision to construct new infrastructure grids and the psychological fortitude to outlast the broken institutions standing in their way. Aliko Dangote achieved industrial scale through import substitution. Instead of paying premiums to import cement and sugar into Nigeria, he built the domestic capacity to produce it himself. He utilized vertical integration, locking down absolute control over every stage of the process. From the extraction of raw earth to the refinement in the kilns, straight through to the continental logistics and distribution networks, he owns the chain. Femi Otedola demonstrated how physical scale can be paired with capital fluidity. Operating in downstream fuel, the retail end of the oil sector, he executed a $750 million divestment from his physical assets. He did not exit out of failure. He pulled his capital from a volatile, low-margin sector to attack a deeper structural bottleneck, the national power generation deficit. A billion-dollar empire is never an accident. It is the disciplined evolution from suffering under systemic friction to engineering the processes that solve it, and finally scaling those solutions until they reshape the world.